Thank you, everyone. How's the lunch today? Everyone had a good lunch?
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys leave a little bit of room because what I hear is when you have a huge lunch, this is a sleepy session. And one of my goals for this session is by the end of this session, all of you can wake up instead of falling to sleep. So yeah, welcome to this session about spatial AI. I think it's one of my favorite topic in the AI space. I think it's very undervalued, very under the radar. It's a hidden gem, and it could be the next big thing. And I'm gonna use the next 20 minutes to tell you why I think it's the next big thing and how we should look into it. Just a quick intro on myself. My name is Wang. I'm the founding partner with a VC firm called Outpost Capital based in the Bay Area. And we focus on early stage frontier technology investments such as spatial computing, robotics, AI, and blockchain. So you see, I'm sure like throughout this conference, you met a lot of AI investors, right? And I think nowadays when we talk to different venture capitalists, they all claim to be an AI investor as well. But it's a little bit meaningless to claim yourself to be an AI investor because honestly, like nowadays, who doesn't invest in AI, right? So the real question is, what in AI do you invest? And I think when you talk to any AI investors, this is one of the first questions that you should ask as well. And 9 out of 10 times, I think the answer that I've been hearing is something like this. Something can be kind of like, interpreted using a graph like this. I'm sure you see different version of this kind of graph, right? But the idea is that, there's an infrastructure layer, right? And on top of infrastructure, you have this kind of middle layer where you can do DevOps, you can do like developer tools, things like that. And on the application layer, you have the consumer side, right? All kinds of consumer application and all kinds of enterprise application for different enterprise verticals, right? So I'm sure we all heard about the story, and I think 9 out of 10 times when you ask any AI investor, what do you invest? Their answer falls into something that can be interpreted by this chart, right? And I don't like it. Why I don't like it? Because I think it's one, the narrative is too similar, and two, I think at the keynote yesterday we said, hey, right now we are at the largest AI conference, and this AI conference has grew from 2,000 people to 8,000 people this year, right? So obviously the industry has come a very long way, and so many people working on so many different projects, so many different problems, right? The thing is, it's getting so crowded. It's getting so crowded at the infrastructure, it's getting so crowded at the middleware, and it's getting so crowded at consumer applications and enterprise applications. So if you are an entrepreneur, you don't want to be in a very crowded space because you have too many competitors, right? We want to identify the type of opportunity where it's less crowded, where it still feels that it's a blue ocean opportunity. It's not a red ocean opportunity, right? You don't want to have like 20, 30 other companies competing with you working on the same thing. So it's getting too crowded. And I think this kind of interpretation and this kind of breakdown for the entire AI industry is also one single threaded, right? So for example, last year, everyone was talking about RAG, right? That's the hottest thing. How can we apply like an internal database and using AI to retrieve information from the internal database, but still using the capability of LLM for some kind of enterprise use cases, right? Hottest thing last year, everyone's talking about it, and this year, I haven't went to any single session at AI4 that haven't even talked about the word agent, right? Every session, AI agent, right? So I think it's just getting so crowded and everyone is telling the same story. I'm just getting so frustrated with it. And as a venture capitalist, I think, especially focus on frontier technology. What is frontier, right? It's the next big thing, right? We should look a little bit ahead and try to figure out, hey, what's interesting next, right? Not only what is interesting today, but 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, what is interesting at that time. So I think in order to answer that question, we need to kind of break the framework that I previously showed, right? And I know a lot of you were taking pictures of that slide, but we need to break that framework and we need to look into this industry, have a fresh, new perspective, right? That's what we need to do. So that comes to my topic, spatial AI, right? What is spatial AI? I think it's a new frontier, but then how many of you have heard about the spatial AI? Show a raise of hand. Okay, about half, right? So I think different people have different understanding about spatial AI. Some of you feel like, hey, it is spatial computing, right? The vision that Apple, Meta with the Reality Lab and Oculus, right? All these companies are trying to do, right? Going to the VR, AR, XR side of the world, make the whole digital media much more immersive. Well, I think it is kind of spatial computing, but not quite right because we still need the intelligence layer, right? Spatial computing is more of a term interpreting around the media layer. It's a type of new media where we can interact with content or information, right? And then a lot of you this morning have obviously come to the Fifi Lee's fireside chat, which is very inspirational. And we all know Fifi with work labs have been coining a new term called spatial intelligence, right? So is spatial AI something the same or identical with spatial intelligence? I think it's getting closer, right? But it's not quite there because when we talk about spatial intelligence, it's really from a research and academia side of the view to try to understand, hey, when we are building all these kind of foundation models, right? Can we make it a little bit more 3D native? Can we use these foundation models to solve some of the 3D based problems, right? So that's kind of like spatial intelligence. So the question is, what is spatial AI? And to me, how would I define spatial AI? And I won't bore you with any kind of terminologies and paragraph of definition. I love simplicity. So my definition about spatial AI is that simple. It is an intersection between artificial intelligence and 3D. So the intersection between AI and 3D, that's spatial AI. And that can cover quite a lot of things, right? Remember this one? I was saying that, hey, we should forget about this, right? So stop taking pictures. Okay, get ready to take pictures. So this is a new perspective, and this will show you from a spatial perspective how we can look into the AI sector, right? And here, me and my partner, his name is Michael, a professor from School of Visual Art, we've been working together, and we've been trying to launch this world's first industry map for spatial AI, right? So we are making this kind of like an interactive website as well, and down the road we are thinking about making this a database where you guys can just refer and look up as well. So here's a short demo. So you can go to each of the companies, right? Check out the profile. Work labs by Fifi Lee, right? A lot of other companies, different categories, and also we have some ideas to make it more interactive so that eventually this will evolve into a database that for any of the companies you want to learn more about, you can use this as a reference point. So let me bring the mouse back. Yes, let's break it down. What are there? So first of all, we have the foundation 3D models, right? What is foundation 3D models? WorldLab is a great example, right? It's a very research-oriented lab dedicated to build the next generation of foundation models that has a much stronger 3D capabilities, right? A model not only able to output language, but also able to output 3D objects and 3D worlds as well, right? And there are, in addition to the foundation models, some of the foundation AI labs like Meta, right, Grok, OpenAI, they all have some, spatial AI team building internally. And also there's a bigger category, what I call as a generative 3D, which is more application and production ready, right? So I think a little bit, if you look at the right side, the models and the labs is very research focused, but the icons and companies on the left side is a little bit towards production side, right? So which is more on from the multimodality perspective. We already do a very good job in terms of language, audio. When we go into 2D, right, we have images and videos, right? But 3D is just a natural next step for the multimodality, right? So I kind of put everything that into a big bucket. And also, when I have a lot of conversations, they will be like, "Hey, what about the robotics, right? What about this whole physical AI space?" And I think that makes a lot of sense as well. Why? Because our physical world by default is also a 3D interactive world, right? So by giving AI the capability to navigate our 3D interactive world, essentially we are also creating a spatial AI technology. And whether you are whether you are asking the AI to navigate a 3D world or a real world or the virtual world, is all 3D world. So a lot of methodologies, a lot of core development is shared across the table, right? And in addition to robotics, VR, AR, we talked about that before. BCI, right? I think especially down the road, can be a different alternative on how AI can navigate in the 3D world as well. Then on the consumer side, right? Now we are getting to the application side. So on the consumer side, media entertainment, right, is quite big use case, and it's not a new use case. It has decades of development as well, right? From gaming to different kind of new media animation, right? Right now we all see some kind of productions where we can do 3D animation using AI, right? We can generate those kind of AI-generated animation or different type of simulation so that we can produce shows differently as well, right? And also there's a big category around AI for gaming. And as we all know, most of the games are based on some kind of game engines. And for game engine, it's a 3D native environment. So obviously it falls into the spatial AI category as well. And last but not least, there are the ecosystem enablers, right? What does that mean? A lot of enterprise applications, like different enterprise simulations. Jensen Huang, if any of you have went to GTC, right? He's talking for 3-4 hours nonstop, not even going to the restroom. Don't know how he did that, but he's a big advocate in that space, right? He's using a lot of example on how you can create industry simulations, right, for your factories, warehouse, right, and after you have created all these simulations, then you can do a lot of training related tasks. You can use a simulation to do some kind of optimization and prediction type of work, right? And then a lot of use cases from that perspective. In addition to that, big tech is always a huge ecosystem provider in the space, and also enterprise data, right? And also is essentially a lot of companies trying to develop new data generation, data labeling type of services. In particular, on the synthetic side, right? How do we mostly train autonomous vehicle nowadays, for example, right? Most of the training data is actually not captured in real life, right? The majority of the training data is synthetically generated within a 3D simulated environment. So, anything in that category is also part of this big ecosystem. So, I think before I conclude my session, I want to share a little bit on why am I so passionate about spatial AI, and also most importantly, when we look beyond the hype, right? When we look beyond what is capable by all these different applications and different verticals that we just been through, what's the future that can potentially be unlocked by spatial AI and can only be unlocked by spatial AI? So here's the thing. We've been talking about how how good AI is, and how it's useful today, right? How it's increasing productivities and drive the economy in all kinds of directions. But currently, 90% of the AI systems, over 90% of the AI systems are based on large language models. And what is large language model? It's a foundation model that take language as input and take language as output. And language is one-dimensional data. So the way on how large language model works is solely based on text, language-based reasoning, right? No matter how powerful large language model is, the vision, if the large language model has eyes, right? The word that large language model see in our world is always 1D, right? So it lacks true understanding about the world. But for human intelligence, right? For us, we all know ourselves very well. We know that our intelligence develop very, very differently. So how does human intelligence develop? How do humans learn? When we are a baby, right? When we don't even know how to walk, how to speak, right? We all have our interaction with the world already. We all understand, we are kind of in a 3D world, right? And there's some objects in front of me, and I'm in this kind of space, right? So everything come to our human intelligence. 3D come to our human intelligence very, very intuitively, right? So we don't need to really actually study, but we already interact with 3D, and we also have our sensory experience, right? We can feel, we can touch, we can smell, we can hear, right? So it's a multi-dimensional, multi-layer, multi-sensory type of experience. And language is only learned later, right? So we learn language later on, and it's kind of like the reverse of foundational AI models, which is interesting. But here's a wishful thinking, right? So imagine one day we can get into some kind of spatial AI, some kind of foundation model that can take 3D input natively, right? Without translating the 3D input into a one-dimensional space, right? We don't do that kind of conversion. Take 3D data as an input and take 3D data as output, right? So handle a real spatial AI foundation model that is capable of doing that. And it will, by default, embed all these spatial reasoning capabilities within the model itself, right? So the understanding, the interpretation, and the learning about the world is very, very similar to human being, right? So if we can get to that point, I think that potentially will unlock a new way for us to achieve AGI, right? Because I'm sure a lot of you have heard about how, for example, recently GPT-5 has been a disappointment, right? Not too much breakthroughs. Most of the new features are incremental, and Yang has publicly said that through large language model, we will never reach to AGI, right? Because it doesn't understand space, it doesn't understand spatial reasoning, doesn't understand chirality, doesn't understand physics, right? So it has so many limitations. But to me, I think a 3D native spatial AI model is the solution, and is a potential pathway to AGI. So yeah, this is a link to the map. It's, as you can see, it's still a mess, right? So it's a early version, but all of you guys, you have early access today by scanning the QR code. Yeah, if you want to learn more, chat more, this is me and my partner Michael Gold. We've been working collaboratively on this initiative, and that's our LinkedIn. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any thoughts, questions or yeah, anything you want to discuss. Thank you guys so much, and hopefully I will meet you guys up.